Hello, welcome to Tier List Tuesday. It's Tuesday and it's time to list the tiers. And I thought, who better to talk about the different World Eater detachments than Brian Daugherty from the Red Path, World Eaters aficionado extraordinaire. Brian, how you doing?
Doing good, Jack. It's good to be back. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to this book. Breaking down the data sheets, which we already did in a tier list video, which I don't know the order that these are going to be releasing in, but we have hit that up. So make sure if you want an insight into that, you guys check that out. But I guess today we're going to be talking about like kind of the book itself, the meat and potatoes of World Eaters, the different detachments and what we think of them.
That's right. So we have 6 detachments, right? We have the 5 in the book plus Vessels of Wrath. And we're going to be ranking them in order. Although I think with some very few exceptions, they're all pretty workable. They're all pretty good.
Yep. They all have a lot of play competitively. And I think they all bring something different to the table.
The only one I think that doesn't really have what it takes, in my opinion, isn't really doing that great right now, is the Possessed Swaller Band.
I'd agree as well. It's a detachment that, first of all, it gives 8-pound Blood Surge. That is what it does. That is the detachment rule, which on itself isn't very impressive as far as detachment rules go. Like, that can be huge, but situationally it means nothing, right? If you get paired into a mono melee matchup or a shooting player that just knows how to stand X amount of inches back from you, right? Like, setting up those traps is really good, but 8-pound aren't durable.
No, it's very likely that like the one surviving member of the squad is who gets to make combat in the Blood Surge. And as far as detachment rules go, we can do a lot better than that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you can be rocking 6-man, 8-pound squads to be taking advantage of the Blood Surge potential, but the odds that your opponent doesn't just line something up that decimates that squad and you're down 250 points and then you Blood Surge 2 8-pound models into something, like, it's not gonna hit as hard as you're gonna want it to, especially for how much points you're investing, which I feel like is going to be what drives this detachment down, is just how expensive 8-pound just are. I mean, 150, 160 points is not cheap.
They're great as like a supplement to what the army's trying to do, right? Is like, oh, I have this, but then I also have a couple 3-man squads. But I don't think they really hold up as like the meat and potatoes of the list.
No. I will give the detachment credit where credit is due. It does have a lot of unique and cool tricks that this detachment does that the other ones don't. I mean, I think the damage ceiling as far as this codex is concerned is through the roof on this detachment alone. I think this detachment has the most damage it can do in just one setting. The enhancement that gives crit 5s to a squad. Having a slaughter bound attached to 6 8-pound, you're just going to dump a bucket of dice and whatever was there is no longer there, right? Having access to 1 CT plus 1 damage into your preferred target, mixed with crit 5s, mixed with lethal sustained. You don't even have to really ask your opponent to roll a save roll because it's kind of a waste of time. Just pick your squad up and remove it from the table, please.
Yeah, 3 damage 8-bound hit significantly different.
Yeah, and crit 5s. And this is also like a weird, like, you'd think this is a detachment where you'd be spamming big squads of 8-bound, but I think it thrives on MSU 8-bound, right? Being able to just escalate to damage 3 on a 3-man squad just makes it so that you're wrecking anything that is at their point level or even a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Right? A Land Raider will just disappear to 3 exalted 8-pound.
I hate how much tension there is between that desire to be an MSU squad and the detachment rule, which basically 3-man 8-bound, 3-man exalted are just not really going to get value from. Not in any kind of serious way.
You're playing this detachment to, I mean, the Blood Surge is a cherry on top. That's not why you're playing this detachment. That is not what made you decide to play the 8-pound detachment. You're playing the 8-pound detachment so you can have that +1 damage. Also the strat that lets you move through enemy models so you can have, in addition to Invocatus, a second squad doing that.
Yeah. And 2 CP full fight on death is legitimately very good.
Yes, and with the Demon Prince marching around, I mean, this detachment also has an issue where it's going to want to be spamming the -1 to wound strat, which is 2 CP, unfortunately, and the auto fight on death, which is 2 CP, unfortunately. And you're also going to be probably spamming the +1 damage every turn and potentially even the go through units. So it's going to be a very CP hungry detachment, more so than the others. which is why Demon Prince is probably going to be first consideration here. And it also probably has the funniest strat of the book. Arguably one of the worst in the game. But we won't talk about that. I just think it's cute to reference we got 6-inch deep strike on Exalted Apound, guys.
They can't charge.
Can't charge. You get to stare at your opponent aggressively and shake your fist.
Now, Death Guard, they can deep strike 6 inches away, and that they can charge.
And they don't have to pay a CP for that.
Yeah, I think there's some big misses in here. I think the detachment rule really isn't what you want to be doing with what the data sheets want you to do. And I think some of the strats, like the 6-inch deep strike, it says 3 in the book, but the Balisay Slate overrides that. On Exalted Apound, do not want to deep strike and then not charge right next to their opponent. What is that?
What is even the use case for that? I mean, I guess if your opponent, you could flip an objective from your opponent with the most expensive investment ever.
Towing it with OC 1 or 2. I guess you could drop them back there and do like behind enemy lines, deploy teleport homers sort of plays.
But that's not what Exalted Apound want to be doing. That's 160 points of deploy teleport homer or behind enemy lines. You're just like, oh, come on. So I want there to be points drops for Apound in the future, right? And there is a very real chance this detachment just finds 400 points on its lap in the future, just with points drops. So I feel like this detachment's success is unfortunately also tied to the success of the other detachments. As Berserker Warband starts to succeed, this detachment will hit heftier points increases.
Yes.
Just from 8-bound tax, which, again, as Jack and I said, not very durable.
Not very durable. I think this detachment assumes you're going to start every game 6 inches away from your opponent. Because if you're already in combat with them, fight on death and +1 damage, and crit 5s, bang, right? They just go super hard. You will kill everything you touch. But that's not really where you have a problem.
It's weirdly one of the slowest attachments too, right? You have Berserker Warband still having access to advance and charge. You have Gore Track, which allows you to move a Rhino and get out and disembark X amount of distance. You have the Demons attachment, which is just magical land of things showing up everywhere. And then you have this detachment, which is just bare, honest, walking at your opponent with the intent to kill whatever gets in your way. Like, this is the bulldozer detachment of whatever is in front of you will not be there when you're done with your turn.
Yeah, for sure. But again, I think we already do that so well that I think we just think it probably doesn't give you what you need to succeed with this book, whereas in ways that the other detachments do.
Correct. And like you said, it is kind of actively fighting itself.
The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTOWAR5 to get a discount on your next order.
All right, next up, number 5, we've got the Cult of Blood.
Probably the most interesting way to play World Eaters, honestly, out of this book. I was definitely like, it was on my bingo card for us to get a Jackal detachment. I did not expect it to be this well thought out. Like, congrats to them. Like, this was a very well thought out detachment with very unique interactions.
Yeah, they did a great job with this, for sure.
They took away the 4-up Fiona or the 4-up Invul and Demon Prince, and I was like, oh no, the Jackals. And then I read this attachment. I was like, oh, they're fine.
They don't get it all game, right? You get it at most for 2 turns.
But you just gotta get to your opponent with that Jackal Swarm, right? As soon as you get there, you're fine. Getting there is the hard part.
Yeah, you basically use like turn 1, you use Goremonger's Infiltrated up to body block. Turn 2, you pop the Invuln. Turn 3, you double pop it, and then you just like try and keep your opponent back long enough to rest on the laurels of your score lead, which is pretty cool. Or you just kill them if they're really disrespectful.
And Jackals are one of those units. They got +1 attack coming from the index to the Codex, so they are up to 3 attacks. And if you have a 20-man squad, you can just dump a bucket of dice on somebody's head with dev wounds, rerolled hits, sustains attached. And what we mapped out that alone will kill like 2 Custodes by itself without them taking saves, which they're gonna a little bit. Maybe if you get a little lucky and spike up, you can do even more than that. But that is way more damage than people are expecting from a dude with a lead pipe, right? Like, this is a detachment that's going to place very similar. Josie is a big champion of the Jack Pack, as so it's been deemed. I feel like this is kind of a step up, maybe laterally. I don't know if it's better or just on the same plane with that. It's a unique way to play World Eaters. I'm not very versed with Horde World Eaters. I like my more elite MSU punchy World Eaters. But there's definitely something here, and there's definitely some play here, and it may secretly be one of the better detachments. It's just going to take the right pilot to be comfortable with Horde.
I think from here on out, right, including Cult of Blood, I think all of these are viable. We said that before.
Yes.
This one is very, I don't know, I think it's a little monodimensional, but it is very good at that dimension. Like if you have 168 jackals, right, jackals and goremongers swarming objectives, blocking your opponent in, and you give them an invul, and you got these princes in there that are doing work, or maybe you're psycho and you even have the Khorne Lord of Skulls in the middle of that army. Like, it's going to be miserable to try to knock you off of objectives, and they do a lot more damage than people are going to be ready for. And I think it's as we said, it's a very well designed detachment. I'm super excited to see what people can do with it, because there's a lot of combos in here, and it just isn't either of our play styles, really.
No, being honest, and the Jack Pack players out there are kind of their own animals at this, and they're going to make it work, right? The list was already doing okay, and I think being given its own tools to succeed, I do think that it will have a home for someone, and it will not necessarily be bad.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think it could even be like quite good, even in teams especially. You're not ready for it. Oops, sorry. You brought a bunch of las cans because you're expecting knights. Tough business. You're not going to get to shoot anything with those las cans that matters.
And it's like, if you have a conversation with me about what the best CSM detachment is, I mean, we could get in a fight over Veterans of the Long War or Renegade Raiders or Creations of Bile. And then one person in the corner is going to raise their hand and be like, actually, it's Chaos Cults. And you know what? They may be right, but we're just going to go back to having our conversation, because that's just, it's almost its own unique style of gameplay.
Yeah, it is. It's a very GSC-like sort of way to play the game. Just hordes of dudes just blocking you in and doing damage when required, but not generally across the board. And just winning the game rather than necessarily winning the fight. It's interesting. It's like a control style build.
Yep, absolutely. And it still has just enough punch to represent that kind of like World Leader vibe. Your opponent still has to respect your melee, even though it's a bunch of screaming dudes with spiked bats.
All right, next up, number 4, we got the Gore Track Onslaught. This is super weird. And again, it's another like utility army that doesn't have a ton of damage. It still has it. It's still World Eaters, but it doesn't have a ton of damage.
Now, this is a placement that may surprise some people, right? Like, it's like deceptive. It's a deceptively weird detachment, right? You have Lance and +1 to your charge when you get out of a vehicle, which is fine, right? Like, that's fantastic. You're making your the pain of strength 4 berserkers not really felt nearly as much. You're giving something like Karn way more wiggle room than he should have going into certain things. Moe's out the wazoo here. This is definitely the detachment where you're going to be playing multiple Master of Executions. All of the strats are enhancements are solid. You have the Please Don't Overwatch Me. You have the Oops, I am actually still old Mo. I'm fights first, once per game. You have the Suppression Mo. And you have the Scout 9 Mo. You could actually have a very solid argument about which one you're going to take. Where it starts to fall apart for me is Rhinos are not super durable. They really aren't. They're annoyingly durable where your opponent has to put dedicated anti-vehicle into them. But the bar is set at anti-vehicle. The bar is set at Rhino, right? That is the floor of what it takes to be anti-vehicle.
Yeah, it's the profile everyone rolls into when they want to feel good about their anti-tank.
Correct, right? This is where Meltas actually feel like they're anti-tank, which they aren't, man. Meltas are not anti-tank. They just happen to be okay at killing Rhinos too. The strats, as far as I'm concerned, are kind of gotcha-y, where it's like as soon as your opponent starts to ask questions, the wheels fall off a little bit, right? Like, if you get shot at in a vehicle, you can disembark and blood surge. Fantastic strat. That sounds great. Now, what if they just don't ever shoot you with anything smaller than a fire dragon? Suddenly you're not using it. That in itself could be good, right? That just means your rhinos aren't getting cheap shots put into them. But it's not as good as it really should feel.
I will say, you get a lot of like, you get a ton of utility that your opponent has to play around, right? Because they have to worry that what if they're, do they just lose the game if their fire dragons shoot and don't kill your rhino? A thing that won't happen often, but does occasionally happen.
I mean, you're getting out basically D6 plus 5 blood surge there.
Yeah. And like, it's an insane distance, especially if you have a mode to reroll it. And if, like, what are the odds that they have to 2-tap your rhino if you pop smoke or you do anything like that? Reasonable, actually, quite reasonable. So then they have to stay outside of, you say D6 plus 5? Yeah. So they have to stay outside 12 inches of your rhinos if they want to make a play that to 2-tap your rhino. That's awkward.
And more often than not, you're just going to see your opponent just avoid it altogether or overkill the living hell out of it with something from as far away as possible because they don't want to give you that extra 11 inches, 12 inches of movement, right? The reactive moving rhino or vehicle in general, same thing. I actually see that being way more useful on things like Mauler Fiends, Hellbrutes, Lord of Skulls even. You pay a CP and you move that thing an extra 6 inches after they fail to kill it and you're back behind a ruin. Now you've screwed over your opponent's entire shooting phase because they lined up multiple things to shoot at that one target. That can be really awkward. The best strat in the detachment, in my opinion, is that when you kill something, re-embark. Berserkers are not durable. 8-pound are not durable. Being able to take them and put them back into their transport, it's huge.
You also don't have to kill the thing you're engaged with. Like, you just have to be there within 6 inches, wholly within. So every model has to be within 6. Oh, you didn't kill the last thing on the objective. Okay, get back on the transport. It's fine. If the transport's on the objective other side of the wall, who cares? It's all, all fair.
Yeah, it's kind of nutty. Like, you can pop out, like, if you get stuck in a weird trade war where you're like, there's going back and forth and you just are like, fine, I'm sick of this. You park a rhino on one side of the wall, charge out, kill whatever's there, and then you pop back in your rhino. Now you've given your opponent nothing to trade with, right? You're just going to trade up every single time until they come address the rhino behind the wall.
Yeah, now the weakness I see here is that the damage cap on this is not particularly high. And so if your opponent just stat checks you, you're going to have less difficulty than some armies because you are still World Eaters and you still hit hard, but more difficulty than other detachments if your opponent actually just says, no, we're getting in a fight now, defend yourself.
And you get that one turn coming out of your car with Lance and +1 to charge, and maybe a couple more turns after that with popping back in and coming out. But realistically, your go turn, you're going to go out and hit hard. But if you get stuck out there, you are just now a strength 4 Berserker, and you will feel the pain of that nerf.
You'll get killed really fast too, because you don't have the feel of pain. You're strength 4 now. Like, grindy combats, you're going to lose them basically to any army that has, a melee unit worth its salt. You're going to lose those fights. Now, if you can keep the momentum up and you always get Lance and you always hit with the units you want and they get back in the transport, grand. You're going to do a great job.
Correct.
I think this list has, again, a lot of play in teams, similar to Cult of Blood, because it's just weird. It's weird. It's different. I think it's like good into Eldar, that sort of stuff, because you just mount back up. Like, what does damage cap matter, right? You have 40 attacks. That's enough.
Like you said, there's like a solid chance you scam some fire dragons from killing a rhino just from popping smoke. I can see 6 rhinos just going straight up the middle of the board with 60 berserkers, absolutely having some weird home in teams. I just see this having a lot of really bad singles matchups.
I would agree with that, including, I think, the rest of World Eaters.
Yeah. Other World Eater attachments would probably feast.
Yeah, because they just are better. And once you get in that fight and that, like, poke out, fight, poke back, it's like, no, you are 4 attacks with strength 4. Like, you are not tall enough to ride sometimes. And that just is a problem. You get so many tricks, but the only source of damage increase is the detachment roll, and that's only if you charged.
I would say there's 3 detachments that really want to be leaning into berserkers within the realm of 6 detachments that we have. It is Gortrek Onslaught, obviously, but the other 2 get the privilege of having berserkers that are AP2, which is significantly better than AP1 strength 4 berserkers. They also get higher strength berserkers.
Yeah, I think it's very tricky. But I do think that a lot of those tricks are surface level because you can't back it up with just like a big punch to your opponent's face if they disrespect you.
Correct.
So that can be a problem. It's still quite good, though. If you tell me somebody won an event with Gortrek Onslaught, I would 100% believe you.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is, and by no means am I saying this is a bad detachment. It's just, as Jack and I are going to allude to later, the other detachments have tools that kind of just trump it.
Speaking of which, an oldie but a goodie, we got Vessels of Wrath.
Vessels of Wrath, which on the red path, we've actually been kind of championing a little bit as an alternative playstyle to the index detachment, which kind of got a little stale towards the end of the index season for World Eaters, right? It was Angron, X amount of 8-bound and Mo, right? That was kind of where most of the lists were falling into. I know Jack has his own little take and weird flavors on it. There are a couple community favorite lists out there for how to play the index, but broadly speaking, there's like only 2 to 3 ways to play the index. Vessels offered us an alternative way to play with no Angron, which we don't have to worry about that anymore. You're probably not playing with Angron very much anyways in most of these detachments. Go check out the tier list video we did, and we'll talk all about all of our woes for poor Big Red.
Absolutely.
But Vessels of Wrath offers, as I was saying, a alternative to the index, which still exists. It's still a very strong detachment. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the alternative is you're getting 3 blessings up now. You're getting the 2 that you roll for, and you're getting your guaranteed other 1. Now, I would argue that there's probably only 1 blessing that you're going to want to have guaranteed that you're going to be inconsistently hitting sometimes, and that's your Dev Wounds.
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be what this detachment's trying to do, is take a brick of Berserkers, shove them at your opponent, and say, this has lethal, sustained, and Dev Wounds, suffer. And you pay a CP, you crank that strength up to 5, and you crank them an extra AP. You have card leading them, you have 8-bound giving them +1 to hit. It's doing everything that the index attachment is doing, but a little bit better in some situations in terms of its offensive output.
Yeah, you get demon prince that cracks, right? With the blade. Also, you get +1 AP, +1 damage.
Yep, I would argue that is probably the best variant of the +1 damage enhancements.
Yeah, AP is Owl the Winged buff.
You get AP and damage,
Yes.
which is way better than... It does not give attack, but I think +1 AP is probably better than +1 attack. So you're pushing that Demon Prince up to 83. If you felt inclined, the Juggernaut Lord actually is good solo with that enhancement. He goes up to like 11 AP, 2 damage, 3 attacks, just an excessive amount. And more importantly, I think the Slaughterbound really pops off with that enhancement in this attachment. This attachment also has probably the best defensive strats of all of the detachments. You have -1 to wound. You have Demon Prince Blood Surges now for 1 CP.
Oopsie. Yeah, don't get near him. Shoot him with fire dragons. I roll a couple extra invulns and you get railed. It's not good.
I do feel like Vessels is a little flawed in that it doesn't have many tools for the melee mirrors, but it has probably the most amount of oppressive tools for your shooting mirrors. Same thing with, like, if we're doing piling consolidate 6, right? A 20-man berserker is just going to crash in. If you're going to play a 20-man berserker, honestly, this detachment is the home for it. You crash in with it like an Invocatus Deep Strike. You consolidate 6 and touch your opponent's entire army. Within Vessels, there is 1 strat, Punish the Craven. On a 1, 2, 3, they die when they fall back. So tag their whole army and say good luck, is what you say. Vessels, like I said, I think it will suffer a little bit in the melee matchup. But in shooting matchups, it can just be downright oppressive.
Yeah, I also think it does something interesting versus Berserker Warband, because a lot of those buffs don't rely on you having to charge your opponent, right?
Right.
So you get those boosts to your combat prowess off the charge, which is something that is a bit of an issue, actually, in a lot of these detachments, is you are better on the charge and significantly worse off the charge.
Correct. We're very excited about Vessels, obviously, as a channel. But I still do recognize that it does have major flaws. And in a time period where you had 4-up Invuln, Demon Prince, and 5-up Feel No Pain, it was a nightmare with Exalted 8-bound, holding stuff in combat, being -1 to wound, with the 5-up Feel No Pain like all of that stacked on top of each other. The style has changed quite a bit. You can't really be that like tanky, mid-board, brawly army anymore. Now you're more of a alternative to Berserker Warband, of still punchy, with a little bit more tricks.
Which I think is a cool place to be. Now, the last 2, I think we had a bit of an issue figuring out which one to put above each other, because I think they're both very good. I think they're pretty comparable in terms of power level. But you made an excellent point that I think the one we put as number 1 is one that's easier to pick up and play for a broader variety of people, and also has a lot of buffs in a broad variety of scenarios. With that in mind, I think the next one up is Khorne Demonkin, even if it is particularly my favorite at the moment. I think Khorne Demonkin is where I'm going to start out, playing for singles and for teams. But the last one is quite strong and also much like broader in terms of its buffs. So Khorne Demonkin is the only detachment that lets you take demons. Lets you take the 5 din shoots they give you in the back of the book. You can't take demons with anything else. And before, you wouldn't really take demons, or maybe you'd take Scarbrand and Scar Bloodletters, but you weren't like ever particularly happy about that. Now they're incredible. You get Scarbrand, who is new Angron, basically. He just takes are you a big thing that I'm scared of? You're dead. Okay, moving on. He's high toughness with a lot of wounds. You get an excellent scoring piece in the Fleshhounds. You get a really cool combo where you get a unit of Blood Crushers led by a Lord, who then gives them Blessings of Khorne, at least the way the rules currently worded, which makes that unit very interesting in a way that like Crushers by themselves, not really. And then you get probably the best strat, definitely the best strat in the book, one of, if not the best strats in the game, Summoned by Slaughter. It is 1 CP whenever anything dies, ever, in any phase. You spawn a Bloodletter unit from reserves. They have to be in reserves. You have to pay for them. Sure. 90 points, though.
Whatever.
Yeah. The last pulled model, whether it's your opponent's unit or your unit, does not matter. You put a squad of Bloodletters anywhere on the board within 9 inches of that last pulled model, outside engagement range of your opponent.
The fact that there is a restriction on it, Jack. You want to tell me what the restriction is?
You can only use it once a battle round. That's it. If you could use it more than once a battle round, oh my God. If they put an artificial restriction on how often you can use a strat, you know it's a good one.
Like, I can't stress enough like that. You're just like, the Bloodletter datasheet by itself actually is kind of disappointing, right? It is just 20 damage to power sword attacks. That is not why this strat is insane. That is not why Bloodletters in World Eaters are insane. It's not, we're not hyping up the Bloodletter stat line at all. It is purely the use cases for how you can use this to screw with your opponent, right? You have the most obvious, shoot something with Forge Fiend, that thing dies across the table, and now there's Bloodletters there, now you're charging and taking your opponent's objective away from them, right? It's probably the most obvious application.
It's not even it spawns them where the unit you killed was. It spawns them in the same zip code as where your opponent's unit was.
9 inches is very broad. Like, that's an 18-inch span bubble in both directions, right? You can go, that's like half the board. So yeah, you can use them off of a Forge Fiend kill. You can spawn them in mid-charge phase, as you did to Richard, right? Off of 6 Skull Crushers Blood Crushers making contact with a Sagittar, blowing it up. And now there's Bloodletters there that are also going to charge the same phase.
Yes.
More recently with me, I had a buddy charge 5 JPI at an objective with some spawn on it to flip the objective. He was like, sweet, I got Storm. And I was like, did you actually get Storm? And now there's 10 Bloodletters on this objective, ringing it. And I'm just going to kill you on my next turn. Thanks for giving me overwhelming force.
It's so flexible that it's crazy. Like, you bring minimum 2 Bloodletter units because you want to do a battle round 2 and you want to do a battle round 3.
Yep, and there's an argument for doing a battle round 4 by uppy downying one of them, which is one of the other really good strats in this book or in this detachment, is at the end of your opponent's fight phase, you can pay CP and pick a Khorne Demon unit and pick it up, put in reserves. That could be, possibilities are limitless. You could re-ingress Scarbrand, you could re-ingress your Crushers, you could just take a 3rd unit of Bloodletters and throw them up in the air. All of those things sound phenomenal to do. Yep. And there is probably more jank that we're not getting into with the strat. Like, that Bloodletter strat, you can use it to move block your opponent. Your opponent accidentally kills something in the shooting phase, and you're like, "Ooh, that charge you had lined up. There's a screen here now."
Yeah, you just like wrap their unit because it just has to be outside of an inch. Like, what? It could be a 2-inch charge, and now it's impossible.
Yeah, or they want to remove one of your screens to charge Scarbrand or your Demon Prince or something that's hiding behind it, which we're going to get into the Demon Prince in a second. They like want to remove your screen, and you're like, ooh, the Jackals are gone, but I'm just going to replace it with another dirt cheap screen. What are you going to do about it, right? And then whatever you're charging that was planning on killing a Bloodthirster or a Demon Prince is about to get smacked by that Demon Prince.
So here's the thing, right? A lot of the other detachments gave up damage over Berserker Warband in favor of utility. Berserker Warband still has a decent amount of utility. We'll get into that. This has so much utility to it. You can reanimate your demons to make your, closer charges. Like they shoot at your blood crushers and you're like, oh, guess what? My charge is now like 5 inches closer because I reanimated a dude and went and charged. It has a ton of utility. You go back into reserves. You can kill stuff to get, blood tide points, which I didn't even cover. But you're not giving up a ton of damage, right? Like the damage output of this detachment is also fairly similar to Berserker Warband because you get very highly damaging units in Scarbrand and the Crushers, and you get access to one of the best offensive strats in the game in terms of Demonic Fury, which you just need a demon unit near your World Eater unit. Your World Eater unit gets Lance, and if you've unlocked Lance for your demons through the Detachment rule, you get Twin Linked. And it's insane.
All the World Eater fans back in the day when we had Drop Index and you liked Old Mo that was damage 5 Twin Linked, this is kind of a dose of that again.
Yeah. We also have great enhancements. We have Blade of Endless Bloodshed, which is one of the better offensive relics. I agree that the Vessel of Wrath one is slightly better, but, whatever, man. You can only kill your opponent once, right? There's one where, the Lauren Juggernaut gets to join a unit of Crushers, which makes a really fantastic unit. And then there's 2 others. Icon of War that gives a 6-inch aura of, Blessings of Khorne for demons. And you can give a unit 2-up armor safe. And when it dies, it gets you a blood type point. One of, honestly, the least impressive parts of the detachment, because the stratagems are absurd, the enhancements are good, is the detachment, which is blood type. Whenever any of their units dies, you get a blood tide point on a 3-up. Or if you kill it with a Blade of Endless Bloodshed, you get it automatically. I don't think it needed to be a 3-up. That's like the only thing I would change.
Yeah, that was a little odd. I'm happy that it's open to shooting at least. Our Forge Fiends can be out here farming us Blood Tithe, but when you look at the table of Blood Tithe blessings, which we can run through them real quick, you have 2 Blood Tithe, you get all World Leaders and Blood Legion units, a 5-up Field of Pain, 2 Psychic and Whirlwinds, which either you're never picking or you're going to ruin someone's day with that. There's no in between. 4,000 Suns player or Grey Knight player is you're just like, you do 33% less damage. Sorry, bud. Then you have 3 Blood Tithe. All of your Khorne demons gain Lance, and this is probably the most important one to be going for. This is the one you should be rushing. Now, see, we've kind of done it out of order when describing this Demon Prince combo, which is I'm just that excited to talk about it. When you use that strat, which I forget the name of off the top of my head,
Demonic Fury,
it gives you Lance, and if you already had this Blood Tithe unlocked, it gives you Twin Linked. Now, when we were talking about the +1 attack and damage enhancement, throw that in a Demon Prince. You have a damage for Demon Prince with Dev Wounds on the charge, Twin Linked, Lance, and that's not even counting your other buffs that you can stack on top of it with blessings. So rushing that combo as fast as possible will help your Blood Crushers, help your Bloodletters, do more damage. It makes Scarbrand go from probably killing everything in the game to he's killing everything in the game.
Yeah.
Then probably the one you're taking the least 4-up invuln for Blood Tide point, 4 Blood Tide points.
It really only matters on the Crushers. If they're still alive and kicking, you can consider spending for it, but
you don't need Bloodletters to be more durable. They're not.
They're one-use missiles often. And then if you are flush with cash, you can spend 5 Blood Tithe and give your Blood Legion units across the board Blessings of Khorne. This isn't like a big deal either. Your Crushers already have it. Scarbrand would like it.
On math, if you've accumulated, because you're getting Lance first, if you've accumulated 8 Blood Tithe points, that means you've killed 12 things, which your opponent should be tabled by then.
Yeah, very likely. Now, you do have a strat that is going to be very helpful a decent amount of the time. I'd say most of the time, which is when you kill a character or monster in the fight phase, you get D3 Blood Tithe points automatically and can automatically activate an ability. So Blade of Endless Bloodshed Prince, who kills anything he touches, kills like 5 Infractors plus a Lord. You're going to get 2 Blood Tithe points automatically. And then you get D3 more and can automatically flip one of these on. And suddenly you might be good on your Blood Tithe point economy for the rest of the game.
Yeah, maybe you pull that off turn 1 and you're like, maybe I do want all of my demons to have blessings turn 1.
That would be sick.
That is something that you could just rip right out the gate on. So there is so much, and the reason why we're going to be putting, not a secret anymore. There is only one other detachment left to talk about. The reason why we're putting Berserker Warband ahead of this detachment is there is no linear play pattern for how to play this detachment. Just like any demons army that for any side demons pilots, the game plan for this detachment is going to be very much so reactive, I would say.
Yeah.
It's a very reactive game plan of responding to what the current board state is and trying to still stay ahead of your opponent in terms of resources where you are. It's going to be probably, I'd say, the hardest detachment to actually play within the book.
It is an incredible toolkit, but you need to know what tool to use at the right time, for sure.
And it is not forgiving at all. Like, it still has weirdly the most durability out of all the detachments because you do have T7 Blood Crushers running around, big monster, more invulns, Demon Prince. It's like weirdly toughness stat checky. But at the end of the day, the model count really isn't that high.
You have to be careful not to bleed resources too quickly at the wrong time. This really likes Forge Fiends because Forge Fiends can shoot units to death and drop the Bloodletters in. You can get some really crazy initiations on your opponent with this army where like you go in through walls with the Crushers, you advance and charge like Rapid Ingress potentially, or just walk up the board, advance and charge with Scarbrand. You hit them with all that stuff. You hit them with the Prince. 3 things are going straight to sleep. Like there's no question there. And then we shoot them with Forge Fiends first. You throw a unit of Bloodletters into their backfield, as well as blasting some stuff to smithereens. And then you charge them with the Bloodletters, and suddenly they might just find themselves table like in a turn.
Yeah, and I found this detachment out of the 6 to probably be the most explosive. When you finally decide that your opponent has lost the right to just, as you said, just like I like to say, give people dirt naps. Like this is the detachment that is going to just say, okay, the game is over. Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch you, and we're gone.
Go to sleep,
and it's
go to
gonna
sleep,
your
go to sleep,
opponent
go to sleep,
is
go to
literally
sleep.
going to be staring at the board at the end of the battle round and be like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, this detachment, when you pull the trigger, takes your opponent's home objective like no other, hits their front line like no other, and it's just really good at that job.
I like that it has a solid like A, B, and C plan, right? Like your Demon Prince isn't going to be in the first wave. He's going to be coming out and your opponent's going to be like, oh, finally, I got rid of Scarbrand. I can finally just breathe and rest. And the Demon Prince is just going to crawl out from underneath the bed and just like beat them up and take their lunch money. And
your opponent's going to be like, what just happened?
He's like, I didn't know there were 2 scary demons.
Yeah, for sure. Big fan of this. This is where I'm going to be starting out with for sure. I think on terms of power level, it's about equal to Berserker Warband, but I think if you're looking to pick one up to start and Khorne Demon doesn't immediately call out to you, man, you cannot go wrong with Berserker Warband.
No, I mean, Berserker Warband is the bread and butter. That is the salt and pepper of the World Eaters Codex, right? It did get, I would say, broadly a glow up from the index version. It got an extra pip of strength on the charge, which makes up for some of the strength nerfs that we received across a few data sheets. Demon Prince went down, Berserkers went down. I think that's it. Maybe a few other
Spawn
case
went
choices.
down one.
There's a few other case choices, but those are the 2 that really matter. So playing Berserker Warband helps you not feel that nerf really at all. Like, you will have instances where you're stuck in and you're still dealing with strength 4 berserkers, but they probably have Karn the Betrayer attached to them. And trust me, you won't lack for killing power at that point.
Yes, for sure.
So Berserker Glaive is still the same. Helm of Brazen Ire went from half damage to -1 damage, which is functionally still the same. It's not, but it is.
Yeah, if you get hit by a las cannon, you're going to be sad that it isn't half damage, but anything else, like the stuff that's really going to be hitting you hard is, let me put it this way. On balance, you're more durable because you have Lone Op and -1. Lone Op and half would be a choice for sure.
Yeah.
Like that would probably be a little too much. So you're the guy with Helm of Brazen Ire got better on that. Berserker Glaive is the same.
We all want the D3 back, but that was absurd and we should have never had that to begin with. There would be no argument for that being the best +1 damage enhancement if we still had the old one, but that's fine. Favorite of Khorne, actually, I'd say got better.
Oh yeah, significantly, I'd say.
Now, I believe we alluded to earlier in this episode that the blessings are much less picky now for what you want. There's only one really super restrictive one, but the rest are just like, fine, I guess I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, if you have favored, as I've been finding with playtesting, you kind of just get perfect blessings rolls every time. You don't really have the opportunity to have the 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
Yeah, if you're rerolling 2 of those, it is very tough to get the no doubles, right?
You have to get that's. It's just a bad day if you're getting 5 1s in a row on your blessings dice. So being able to just see your roll, pick up 2 dice and re-roll them basically fixes your blessings for the rest of the game. You don't have to worry about getting bad blessings, which is nice. And even though the worst case scenario of blessings isn't nearly as bad as it used to be, if I'm playing into Custodes or Death Guard, I want my dev wounds every single turn, right?
Yes, yeah. You don't want to miss on the dev wounds against Custodes because suddenly your go turn is just like disappears. You're like, oh, this is going to get so much harder to kill you now.
Finally, for our last enhancement, Battle Lust did change. It went from free heroic and it changed into you get to reroll your charge, and if you already have reroll your charge blessing up, then you get +1 a charge. It's like, okay, I mean, like I'm picking that one exactly last, which means never.
Yeah, you can only take 3 enhancements, which is kind of a rule a lot of people don't know. You can only take 3 enhancements at 2,000 points, which means you're not taking this one because the other 3 are great.
The other 3 are phenomenal. I would probably go Glaive Helm favored in that order. Favored you get the most wiggle room with, but I do like that comfort zone of having, like I said, perfect blessings the entire game.
For sure. The strats are great. Some of them got nominally worse, but we lost like the one where you do battle shark checks if you kill something was so bad. I would just tell my opponent I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to tell you what it does. Like
it was a very common meme in our Discord to be like, all right, guys, can any of you actually tell me the name of our 6th strat? And nobody knows.
No,
and I could tell you now because I mean I had to learn it for the meme. Gory Massacre. I'm not sad that it's gone. It can go away, and we've used it a couple times with 1,000 Suns players and laughed in their misery. That's like the only used case for it is to take the Cabal points away for 1 turn, and sometimes it doesn't even work. So instead, notably, +1 to wound is gone, replaced with +1 AP on the charge.
Sometimes better, oftentimes worse.
In the context of the Codex, it's fine because you're getting, I mean, your Berserkers right now. This is the detachment where Berserkers are really going to be shining, right? You have 10 Berserkers slamming into something with Karn. You're pushing all of that up in AP, and you're maybe hitting on 2s because of 8-bound standing by. All of that's like, and you're having lethal hits up more. It's about the same, if not maybe slightly better than +1 to wound.
Yeah, it depends what you're swinging at, right? Like if you're swinging at a big, tough vehicle, you'd rather have +1 to wound. I think if you're swinging at most other things, I think you'd rather have the +1 AP, but it's pretty close.
And having Exalted 8-bound or 8-bound slam into a vehicle and be AP3 or AP4 is probably going to solve that a majority of the time.
Yep. Also helps solve one of our biggest issues, which was armor content 2-up saves. Because armor content 2-up saves just gutted a lot of our offensive profiles, and now it just doesn't. You just spend a CP ahead of time and you're fine.
Yep, correct. Like Deathwing Knights now are a kind of I won't say they're a non-issue now, but they are significantly less impactful into us than they used to be. Going in them with AP2 on Berserkers with dev wounds up and sustained hits, we're actually able to put away like 4 or 5 of those guys in 1 activation despite Norm of Contempt. Versus before, we were signed up for a bad time.
Yes, for sure.
Going on to the other strats, we have I will say the reroll, this between Vessels and Berserker Warband, these are the only ones where you can have 3 blessings active at one time. Granted, it is way more exclusive to access it now, weirdly. If you pair into something like Chaos Knights, you're pretty much never going to have a 3rd blessing up. Whenever you kill something in melee, if it was a character or a monster, I don't know why they just left it as monster. It could have been vehicle too.
Yeah, they could have done that for the Demon King one as well. And I think they should have, but whatever, moving on.
Moving on, no, I'm not salty. You get to roll your 8 dice and pick another blessing on the moment. Now, you can be very like deliberate with your choices here, right? Like you can go full melee into somebody with the anticipation of killing a character to then grab Consolidate Pile in 6 and keep the pain train going even worse for your opponent, right?
Yep. And you can chain them together to kill a unit, immediately consolidate 6 inches with that unit is actually quite strong.
Yeah, like into something like Emperor's Children, where there's just characters walking everywhere. The lists have 9 characters in them. You kill one because you're pretty safe. I mean, if you're not killing a character in a World Eater fight phase into an army like that, then something's going really wrong. And it's not because you didn't pick Consolidate Pile in 6.
Yeah.
But then being able to pay a CP and just ruin your opponent's day after that, and they didn't see it coming, is really solid. Like, it's
really
still
solid.
gonna come up occasionally, and it's like a nice little cherry on top of an already horrible turn for your opponent.
One of the best strats for a melee army, and I'm really super happy we kept it, is sticky objectives when you die on them. It's huge because it means your opponent can't just sit behind their guns and kill your units off of objectives and pass turn until you have no models left, right? If they do that, you're going to score more primary than them. Is you sticky the objective they just shot you off of, you take them off their expansion, and there's a score disparity there. So they have to come forward and do something about it. And given the way it works, they have to, on any objective you're touching, they have to put a unit on there, or that is the one that'll stick you when you die. And you just, I have a score lead on you. Come forward and do something about it. Come forward into Berserker Glaive and Karn and 8-Bound and Forge Fiends ready to hit you.
Right. And like the Forge Fiends are like the Forge Fiend and Demon Prince, I want to say here, combined with that strat really help us play primary very, very well. Where you take a spawn, stick it out on an objective, something's got to come out and kill that spawn. If it's in melee, I mean, we're happy about that. That means your opponent's coming into the middle of the board. If it's only shooting, they got to pop something out to shoot at it to kill it. And if they do that, then you can wheel out some Forge Fiends to nail them. The Demon Prince allows you to maybe do this for free on a dead turn, like turn 1 where you're not using the Demon Prince, or you can be like, yeah, I'm just going to sticky that for free in the middle. That's such a huge headache for your opponent. Combine that with like the Demon Prince's lone op on the other objective, even though he's standing out in the open. You can just set up really easy 15 turns.
Absolutely. It's massive. If we lost that, it would have been huge, but we did not. We kept it. It's great.
If we lost that, I'd probably say the Khorne Demon Detachment would have a leg up on us.
Yes,
but,
for sure. Then we have the ability to make Khorne Berserkers better than any other detachment in this detachment because you have Advance and Charge and Flat Blood Surge 8.
Advance and Charge and Flat Blood Surge 8 both specifically call out Khorne Berserkers, which don't fool yourself. It's called Berserker Warband, but you can actually get away with playing a relatively low amount of Berserkers, or you can play a lot. I think the detachment really benefits both ends of the spectrum. You're typically getting 1 to 2 good Blood Surges per game anyways, so having 1 squad of Berserkers isn't as bad of a deal as it would seem, because we're going to be spamming the other 4 strats quite a bit when possible. The -1 damage, the extra AP, extra blessing, sticky on death. I mean, it's not like losing these 2 strats by not running enough Berserkers is necessarily a downside, but it definitely is an upside to be able to have a Karn missile just in a Rhino, in a wall somewhere. Look at your opponent. It's the exact same threat range from the index being like, I can go 17 inches in charge. What are you going to do with that information? Usually they just scoot to the other side of the table and you're going to be winning on primary anyways.
Yep. And flat 8 Blood Surge is so much better than D6. It is bananas. Your opponent is super rarely going to be able to kill all 10 Berserkers in one activation. I would be surprised. Like a Forge Fiend does not do it.
No. And you're going to look at your opponent and say, do you want to shoot like your 1 heavy bolter at me? Or you're just not going to shoot the squad at all, and you're going to come tango with me in melee, and you're likely going to have fight on death up, or there's Karn just chilling in that squad, and they better get to Karn when they're in the killing, because Karn's going to get to them. And even then, you still might fight on death, and Karn might get his last word in no matter what, and he probably isn't his last word. He'll probably just stand right back up and do it again.
That play is so absurd, because you get to go very far, hit their expansion objective, clear it, just clear it, and then there's like no good way to deal with that unit. It just really isn't one. Like, what are they going to do? Okay, so like they shoot you to death. You sticky the objective, you stand back over the Karn. Well, that's bad. Okay, so they sticky you, they shoot you, but they put something on the objective. So you can't sticky it. Okay, you Blood Surge into it. All right, well, that's bad. Can't do that. That will get me killed. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move you up and charge you. Okay, well, the plan is to charge Karn in 10 off of my expansion objective. That doesn't sound like a great plan, especially with fight on death and Karn stands back up and hits you again and it's not your objective anymore.
It's such a efficient combo to pull off, even if it feels like you're charging something on the expansion objective that isn't worth their points. The amount of headache that you're going to cause there is going to just secure you a 15 on the other side of the board again.
It's miserable. Like, what are they going to do about it? They can't be within 9 inches of you, or they're in combat. And if they're outside 9, like Karn's in the center of the unit kind of blooms out a little bit. So if they shoot the unit, Karn stands back up, and then they go to charge. Well, that's probably not even a legal charge at that point. And then it's your objective, and you stickied it. You raw off and go kill something.
This detachment has so much flexibility that I think almost every single data sheet has play here. It's the least exclusive of the detachments, which is why it's so attractive for us at the top of this list, is that everything has play here. It's not linear, but you kind of know what your plan is going into your game, how you're going to be playing it, and it's probably the most similar to how we were playing pre-Codex. I mean, it is the same detachment, just with some minor tweaks. Also, pushing 8 bound to strength 10, 18 attacks at strength 10, AP 2 damage. That's insane. Berserker Glaive on a slaughter bound, or even the Demon Prince, give him old Angron sweep. I can't say enough about this detachment. That it's just blanket good.
Yeah, that's probably how I'd put it, man. It's just good.
The tricks here are written on the side of the 10, and your opponent just has to deal with it. It's just literally deal with it is what this detachment is telling your opponent to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Think the detachment is trying to build itself more MSU, so you can get away with those combos. Also, like, Spawn in this detachment, this is where they shine. Goremonger is in this detachment. This is probably the Goremonger detachment if you're going to be playing them outside the cult detachment. Strength 5 Lance, maybe AP. The skirmishing in this detachment is insane, which previously in Index World Eaters was not good. But you combine Forge Fiends with good skirmishing and 8-bound and Karn hiding in walls, ready to pounce on your opponent. It is just bad news bears for a lot of players out there to try to untangle them.
Yeah. Once you start doing Berserker Warband math, which is where you like start baking in the +2 strength, +1 attack into unit profiles, you're lost. You're never going back to another detachment. That's just how it works. Because like when you look at, 8-bound, the 6 attacks of strength 10, playing them at 5 attacks of strength 8 just doesn't have the same appeal anymore.
And then I'm like, what if the 8-bound were AP 3? And then you're just like, okay.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good, wouldn't it?
It'll be pretty good.
Just even going through this, maybe go, oof, this is a hell of a detachment.
And broadly speaking, if you took the index list and you put it in this shell, it does probably more damage than it did before in the index.
Yes.
Just because you're picking lethal sustain, just because you have access to that extra AP, right? Like, it's a lot. And this is also probably Karn's favorite detachment too, which will make it my favorite.
Karn slays in this detachment. He goes so hard. He's 9 attacks at 9-2-3, possibly 9-3-3. Sustained.
He did not need that Pippa AP. Let me tell you, that man did not need to get that much AP.
He just goes in there and he just murders anything, everything that gets in his way, and he'll stand up and do it again. So, man, this detachment rocks.
Broadly speaking, this is probably the most common way you'll see, in my mind, I'll probably be seeing World Eaters getting played. That's probably the way I'm going to be playing it initially, out the gate, just because it's the most familiar. I definitely am excited like you are about the Demonkin detachment. That was probably my favorite detachment to get from the book, and that's probably going to be the one I'm going to be dabbling with the most.
I'm happy they did a good job with it, because some of the other demon detachments and some of the other cult books leave something to be desired. And I'm really happy that ours has a lot of cool flavor to it.
I do too. I'm sad about the 3-up Blood Tithe, but if we're only rushing that 1 Lance Blood Tithe and the rest is gravy, I can stomach that. If that is what it takes to get the rest of that shenanigans that is going on, I can stomach it.
Yep.
So broadly speaking, like, all of these detachments do have play, and I expect every single one of these detachments to win a GT or major at some point throughout the lifetime of this codex.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you're going to be playing Berserker Warband to start, and that's where you're going to be playing like singles and team events with. If people want to get your most up-to-date impressions on the codex or what you're currently on, where would they find that?
So again, spoiler alert, I'm Brian Daugherty from The Red Path. Feel free to check us out. We have a Discord, we have a YouTube channel, everything World Eaters related. We do hobby content, we do competitive content, we do beer and pretzels content. If you want to figure out, the Jackal detachment, you can run a Thunderhawk in, and that is Titanic, I believe. So the Jackals will start worshiping the Skybird, and that'll give them icons. Like, we talk about that kind of stuff. We talk about everything. So feel free to check us out. I know our Patreon, like, we offer even more one-on-one competitive help. I'm working on a list right now for a major I'm going to be playing Berserker Warband in Dallas coming up. So, it's in my interest to find the best World Eaters list possible. So feel free to check out the Discord if you want to get a little taste of that insanity that's going on, because I am posting lists in there constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got some good stuff in there. So you should go ahead and check that out. If you want more content like this, please subscribe to our channel. You'll see all the latest content, all the latest stuff we have on 40K. We're constantly making tier lists and, variety shows, that sort of stuff on our channel. And if you want our tactical content, that's going to be at thewarroom.vhx.tv. Down in the link down in the description, there's a free 3-day trial. If you want to check out those games we referenced, where I played against Richard and Quentin's Death Guard and all that, I'd go check those out. Those are some absolute bangers of scene games. So there's a lot of World Eaters content out there. Red Path, Art of War, all that. We got you covered. So go ahead and give that a look. Thank you for joining us, Brian. I appreciate having you on. And we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.